Jamming that we want to jam for you now. It's a new starting something.
This is brought to you in the event of an actual emergency.
VOB 96.1 FM, your interactive radio.
The hustle never stops. The grind must continue.
It seems that, yes, I would like to buy something.
Regardless of how hard life gets.
Hello, Throwback Thursday. It is right here. It is Master Matters on Voice of the People 96.1 FM Abuja. I'm Chinwe Blessing. We're about to go on 3 hours discussing issues that pertain to your well-being as a Nigerian. I'm talking your general health and well-being. I'm also talking entertainment, news, and gossip. And well, my favorite segment of the show, the segment that looks into, well, political issues and community-based issues that concern us as Nigerians and Africans and even the world generally. We call it World Rounds. Today we look into, well, the issue of coups in Africa. Central Africa has been struck by another coup. This time around it hit Gabon. We're going to look at several issues. Let's begin with this issue. Now, before I get into what had happened, let's talk about Gabon. It has had 7 longest-serving presidents in Africa. Now, another coup has struck in Africa. This time, it is Gabon, where a group of army officers announced that they put an end to the combined 56-year reign. Okay? 56-year reign of both Omar Bongo and his son, Ali, in the Central African country. According to the Putschis, they are annulling the results of the Saturday's election.
Et la restauration des institutions. CTRI, au nom du peuple gabonais, et garant de la protection des institutions, avons décidé de défendre la paix en mettant fin au régime en place. Les élections.
Is the now frequent coups in the continent, on the continent, is the perpetuity of some African leaders in power. And in number of terms, I mean, there were 7 African presidents who have been in power for over 20 years. Well, in this episode, we're going to take a look at the longest serving presidents in the continent and then go and look at the nitty-gritties of the Gabon coup and give you updates as to where it is at today. Now, for 44 years, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, he is of Equatorial Guinea and he has been in power since 1979, making him the longest serving African president. In the early years of his rule, President Obiang was known for being a brutal dictator. He oversaw a government responsible for the torture and killing of political opponents. In the past few years, President Obiang has come under fire from human rights groups for his continued repression of the people of Equatorial Guinea. Now we have Paul Biya, who is who has reigned in Cameroon for 42 years, and it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. President Biya came into power in a coup d'etat. I would like for us to take note of that. He came into rule in a coup d'etat in 1982, and he has ruled the country ever since. In the early years of his rule, he was known for being a repressive leader. In the 1990s, he loosened his grip on the country and allowed multi-party elections. However, he has still remained in party ever since. President Biya has had his fair share of trouble with human rights groups for his continued repression of the people of Cameroon. Now let's talk about Denis Sassou, who has been the president of the Republic of Congo for 36 years. He first came into power in 1979, and he has since been re-elected 3 times. Sassou is currently among the oldest heads of state in Africa, and guess what? He's 80 years of age. His over 3 decades in power have attracted criticism and allegations from corruption to poor governance and human rights violations. However, to him, that has never been any reason, and there has never been any reason enough for him to call it quits. King Mwatsi III has a 36-year-old rule. Etwatsi, Africa's last remaining absolute monarchy, has been ruled by King Mwatsi III for 36 years. He ascended the throne in April 1986 when he was just 18. Then we have 35 years, Yoweri Museveni, he was the president of Uganda for 35 years, came into power 1986 and has since been re-elected 3 times. Museveni is the 3rd oldest head of state in Africa. He's 79 years old. Now, critics say that Museveni has become increasingly authoritarian over the years, stifling dissent and curtailing civil liberties. In recent years, there has been calls for his term limits in Uganda, but Museveni has resisted these efforts. Now, in 2017, he amended the constitution to remove the president's age limit, effectively allowing him to stay in power for life. We're going to keep going on, but I'm sure you are already asking yourself whether or not something is wrong with Africa. Asias Afwerki has been the president of Eritrea for 30 years. He first came to power in 1993 after leading the country's independence movement from Ethiopia. Now, Afwerki has since been re-elected only but twice. Eritrea is also one of the world's most militarized countries, with all able-bodied citizens required to serve in the military. This has led to a mass exodus of Eritreans, with many fleeing the country for safety and opportunity elsewhere. We have Paul Kagame, Rwanda's leader. He has been there for 20. He has been in power since 2000, making it 23 years. He is standing for re-election in 2024, which is next year. And that sums it up. Africa's longest serving presidents. Now let's talk about Gabon, which is the major issue we're looking at today. Well, leaders of the coup in Gabon on Wednesday yesterday named a general transitional president after seizing power following disputed elections in which President Ali Bongo Ondiba, whose family has ruled for 55 years, was declared the winner. The claimed takeover sparked condemnation from the African Union and, of course, alarm from Nigeria over contagious autocracy in a continent where military forces have seized power in 5 other countries since the year 2020. Bongo, who is 64, took over power from his father, Omar, in 2009. He was placed under house arrest, and one of his sons was also arrested for treason, and that is what, this is according to the coup leaders. TV images showed the head of the Republican Guard, General Bryce Oligui Nguema, being carried triumphantly by hundreds of soldiers to cry of Oligui precedence. Now, the coup leaders later named Oligui Nguema the transitional president. According to a TV statement, the coup began with a pre-dawn address in which a group of officers declared that the institutions of the republic had been dissolved, the election results cancelled, and the borders then closed. The country is going through a serious institutional, political, and economic, and of course, social crisis, according to a statement that was read on state TV. Now, it was read by an officer flanked by a dozen of army colonels, members of the elite Republican Guard, and regular soldiers and others. The elections did not meet the conditions for a transparent, credible, and inclusive ballot so much hoped by the people of Gabon, the statement said. Added to this is irresponsible and unpredictable governance, resulting in a continuing deterioration in social cohesion with the risk of leading the country into chaos. These are the reasons why the military decided to take over. Now, I'm going to quote what it said. We, the Committee of the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, CTRI, on behalf of the people of Gabon and as guarantors of the institution's protection, have decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime, it said. Now, let's look at some of the arrests that have happened between the takeover yesterday and now. Bongo's son, a close advisor, Noreddin Bongo Valentin, his chief of staff, Ian Gislean Ngolu, his deputy, 2 other presidential advisors, and the 2 top officials in the ruling Gabonese Democratic Party, PDG, have been arrested, a military leader said. They are accused of treason, embezzlement, corruption, and falsifying the president's signature, amongst other accusations, he said. A worried-looking Bongo in a video from an unidentified location, which trended quite heavily, I must say, yesterday on Twitter, appealed to all friends that, in his words, we have all over the world to make noise.
To make noise. For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, he's in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing happening. Nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really.
Police in anti-riot gear, an AFP staff member saw. Let's talk about the election that, is in dispute, that brought about the entire overthrow of the government by the military. Now, Bongo was first elected in 2009 following the death of his father, Omar, who had ruled the country for 41 years, reputedly amassing a fortune, which I would like to pause here to say, if you watched the video that trended online yesterday of the Gabonese oust president, you would see how much, wealth, how expensive the background looked, how much opulence you can see in the background where he made the video. Looked like, he was chilling in a villa somewhere and having a lot of money. He looked like a very wealthy man, to put it in simple terms. Now, the coup announcement came just moments after the National Election Authority declared Bongo had won a 3rd term in Saturday's election with 64.27% of the vote. Sounds familiar? Well, Gabon's main opposition, led by university professor Albert Ondo Ossa, had accused Bongo of fraud and demanded that he hand over power without bloodshed. Authorities at the weekend imposed the curfew, which on Wednesday was extended until further notice, and shut down the internet nationwide. The internet was restored on Wednesday morning after the TV address. Several French media outlets whose output was suspended during the tumultuous period following the election were permitted to resume, according to a statement from the coup leadership broadcast on Wednesday. Now, Gabon's 2016 elections were marked by deadly violence after Bongo urged out rival Jean Ping just by 5,500 votes, according to the official tally. In 2018 now, Bongo suffered a stroke. If you're familiar with the Gabonese oust president, it's pretty much obvious to see. It's clear to the eyes. And that sidelined him for 10 months and fueled allegations that he was medically unfit to hold office. Now, the Central African country of 2.3 million people has been ruled by the Bongos for more than 55 of the 63 years since independence from France. In what? 1960. International reaction to the coup has been very swift. The United Nations on Wednesday, that was yesterday, firmly condemned the coup, calling on the military to guarantee the safety of Bongo and his family. The U.S. State Department late Wednesday said it was deeply concerned and remained strongly opposed to military seizures. And of course, you can say we can understand why a military rule is quite tricky. It's not something, you can't anticipate what is coming. It's unprecedented. They do what they would please. They rule by the gun. What is ironic about this is people celebrating, a rule by the gun over a democracy, which we know a democracy on paper is seemingly a better option for people as opposed to the rule by the gun. But I digress. Let's go back to the story. Now, the U.S. Department late Wednesday said it was deeply concerned and remained strongly opposed to military seizures while voicing concerns over the lack of transparency and reports of irregularities surrounding the election. Last week, elections was held without international observers, and Paris-based media rights campaigners Reporters Without Borders denounced the fact that foreign journalists had been largely restricted from covering the event. Now, safe to note that since 2020, there has been a military takeovers in Mali, Guinea, Sudan, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Russians also said it was deeply concerned, while China called for all sides in Gabon to guarantee Bongo's safety. In France, where Bongo's loss would mark a blow to Paris rich in Africa, the government said it condemns the coup, reiterating its desire to see the results of the elections respected once they are known. Germany and Britain on Wednesday both condemned the takeover, with Berlin saying there were legitimate concerns over the election. Now, this is as much as we are looking at right now about Gabon. What I do have to ask you, our dear listener, what are your thoughts regarding the Gabon military takeover? The coup leaders they've gone ahead to name their general transitional president. Why do you think Gabon is in this? What are your thoughts towards what Africa is going through? We'll go on a break. When we return, phone lines will be made available. Stay tuned.
VOP 96.1 FM. VOP 96.1 FM.
What we're gonna do now is go back.
Here we go. Hey, my name is Jesse. My name is Adam. We're from Band Maroon 5.